Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to 3672 Climate Responsive Design. We will be covering today lecture number 8 and 9, which are about walls, floors, and environmental acoustics. So the first topic is about walls. They are walls and floors. They are primarily the components acts as a major skin or the physical barrier towards enabling a comfortable environment for the occupants. They act as a skin. Skin means a barrier between the physical environment and the indoor environment. It is significantly important to consider them in the context of climate responsive design because with the help of the climatic data, with the help of the microclimate data, with the help of the orientation, we are going to baseline how good or how combinedly responsive that design would be. Walls as can play different forms and different roles as can be seen. They are different forms and can contribute towards different solutions. Some of these forms are thin skins, inclined skins, thick skins, buffering, and the Wolff effect. We'll be covering each one of these one by one. The first one is thin skin. They mainly refer to the members which add factor of buffering, means separating. These add buffering rather than providing shades. Glazing technology is used. Opaque and transparent both are used. Glass walls, stuff like that can be introduced. The important variables to understand about these are the solar heat gain, how much heat is going to be gathered over there, heat absorption and reflection, how much is reflected, what is the capability of that material to absorb the heat, and a hybrid solution, how can we add other elements like brick or like wood and some alternates to the overall composition. So this is a form of a thin skin. A glass-based wall, some of it is fixed, some of it is openable. Frosted sheet can be used, or even frosted glass can be used for the sake of keeping the privacy and keeping it in an inclined way. This is another way of achieving the same, as you can see in the upper screen or in the upper image. Those areas will be separated from the external ones. These can be like waiting areas, and these will be inside will be primarily offices. In the colder regions, these can act as a good example for the greenhouse effect, in which heat will be retained with inside. Once we have got the sunlight exposed areas, then we can have a hybrid or a combination, as you can see the frosted glass or the glass along with the wood. We can also utilize the same skin, the thin skins, in the false ceilings or in the ceilings as well, to have skylights, and they're going to introduce light inside. They're going to introduce some heat and will be managed the way it has been planned or it has been devised or designed. Then we have examples of inclined scale, means these are the walls which are at angle with the ground and it rests on, it adds some complexity to the overall structure factors associated with its assembly, but also provide a number of advantages. These advantages may include more surface areas added to the floor, ease in the cross ventilation, can also be used as load bearing structure or as gabion walls or retaining walls. Glazing at an angle also provides reduced heat gain through indirect exposure, means directly ग्लास सामने क्योंकि नहीं आ रहा है एंगल के ऊपर है तो वो हीट कम एब्जॉर्ब करेगा. These are examples of inclined skin. This was a project by Daniel Libiskin. As you can see, inclined walls have been utilized, though the structural members, the floors are straightforward so that one can rest, one can walk, but rest of the spaces are inclined, as can be seen in these. Like it was just a simple house-based structure, but with the help of these shapes and these inclined walls, he has introduced a very dynamic form into it. And it can be seen that this was the internal spaces. It's a cross section or it's a section through the space. These can also be add, or inclined face can be utilized to add different dimensions of physicality, just like an entrance can be highlighted. This is another way of utilizing the cladding along with the facades. But one important factor which has to be used with the inclined skins is that how the internal spaces, their momentum, their surface areas, and because of the inclination, how the volumes would be treated, those have to be seen. Retaining walls or gabion walls can also be constructed with the help of that. This is another example of inclined one, and it's not only necessary that it's on the outer side, it can be on the inner side as well. Then we have thick skins. They're massive in nature. Most of them are built with natural materials like stones or clay-based bricks. They allow structures to be built in lesser heights but have multiple advantages like contextually sensitive solutions and provides higher thermal resistance to heat energy, making them energy efficient. Those developed with concrete are very strong structurally, greater physical barriers against any natural seismic movement, and aesthetically pleasing if the local materials are utilized in their design. Just like these, जो पुराने हमारे पास किले होते थे, जो forts थे, those can be seen are built with large scale stones. This is another barrier towards the movement of the earth. Then retaining walls could be developed. Then we can have like multiple or a hybrid kind of a mechanism in wood is used on the first floor, whereas the ground is built with the stone masonry. The stone masonry along with the steel can be used, or along with the other adobe materials, just like this one can be utilized. And these ones, these thicker walls are going to be a good barrier towards retaining or eliminating the heat which is on the external side. You can use different forms of plaster from the local material like clay, and these can be utilized on a very extensive scale, specifically in the hotter regions. Over here you can see it's an old construction which has been done utilizing the thick walls. And masonry walls can be utilized for multiple floors in the thick skins, but most of the time when you're opting for thick walls, they are very limited, up to like 2 to 3 floors and not more than that. Then we can have walls as buffering devices as well, like solar blocking devices, as solar and light blocking devices, or even as enhancing devices to increase these two things. So they become an external factors, but they are not enclosing those spaces. Like these are not enclosing those spaces towards the better performance of these spaces. As can be seen over here, you can see that these are blinds. Obviously they are going to help us retaining the indoor environments in such a way that the direct glare of the sun is not exposed, or whenever we want we can change that mode. Check जो हम लोग develop करते हैं जी, bamboo based structures as wooden based structure, it's a natural material, it's very energy efficient as well, can be utilized. Or we can have like these bricks and jalis made of steel or of brick or of blocks or even of stones. They can be introduced. So they give the advantage of cross ventilation, they give the advantage of diffuse light, they give these advantages. There are also some disadvantages, like during a storm a lot of dust is going to accumulate inside and that has to be treated. सो डायनामिज्म बहुत ज़्यादा आ सकता है जी इसके थ्रू, मज़ेदार शेड्स एंड शेडोज़ का प्ले आ जाता है, इंडोर एक्सटीरियर आउटडोर दोनों के साथ जो है वो एक मज़ेदार डायनामिक प्ले बन सकता है, बहुत सारे पैटर्न्स बन सकते हैं. वी कैन यूटिलाइज ऑल ऑफ दीज काइंड ऑफ imagery and ideas towards developing these spaces. Multiple patterns can be established, multiple designs and open spaces can be established, and you bring like the outside towards the inside, and they are going to be physical barriers buffering के तौर पे, but they can be utilized. And one of the examples is the Kempsey Museum, where these walls, as you can see over here, can be extended outside, and those spaces are going to be added towards the overall function whenever they are needed. To move on to the floors, they become the surface for living in the built environment. They act as the core surface for the support of livable surfaces to be availed by the occupants. So floors are connected with the earth, have a significant impact from earth, and start to act in the same manner. It acts as a large energy or thermal mass with energy conserving capabilities. There are multiple ways in which floors may be found in dwellings, like ground connected, high mass, low mass, mezzanines, bottom integrated. There are alternate approaches to it. So ground connected floors have supposed to have higher mass, and lower mass floors are mainly used with thermal performance optimization techniques, as we have already discussed. So these thermal masses could be introduced to retain the heat and can keep the environment or the indoor environment more or less in a more comfort zone. Mezzanine is, strictly speaking, is an intermediate floor in a building which is partially open to the double height ceiling floor below, and which does not extend over the whole surface of the building. Means पूरा floor उसमें cover नहीं होता. However, the term is often used loosely for the floor above the ground floor, especially where a very high original ground floor has been split horizontally into two floors. These can be good examples of mezzanine floors, like we split the overall space partially of the whole floor into two floors to add some storage or some other functionality, like a study room or a waiting room or some areas where we are going to connect connected. These can be like some sitting spaces, can be like storage spaces, can be like living spaces. Some of these spaces can also be found in shops where our different functions or storage spaces could be utilized. Then we have got like perforated floors for the cross ventilation and allied HVAC support manner. So all the mechanism runs through them, and the flooring is raised above the actual slab. And these can be utilized in the stairs as well. There are alternate approaches to it. These are different mechanisms. Mostly they are made of steel, can also be made of aluminium, and some other alternate materials as well. So then we have another factor which we discussing are the verandas. This is basically a roof plus Open air gallery or porch, a veranda is often partially enclosed by a railing and frequently extend across the front and sides of the structure. So these verandas are basically sometimes shaded, sometimes not, but they act as a space which brings the outside and the inside integrated or a kind of a common ground between the two. These are different examples, can be shaded, can be open from the wall sides, can be closed, can be like just partially spaced, which is given some kind of a shade to avoid rain or the precipitation disturb the people over there. Or it can be just like a glass room or a sunroom, which is completely enclosed, and this is going to be a greenhouse kind of a thing. Can be like just like this in a very cold environment and can be very helpful and can be added towards having a different form of exposure to the exterior side depending upon the climatic conditions and the local or the microclimate. These designs could be adopted or modified. In our climate, it is preferred that verandas are always there and they have openness towards it, like some slab is on the above side to cover it up so that it can be covered, and on the front end side, on the sides, they are open so that cross ventilation could be established, just like these examples. But here these are the added spaces which can be extended and can be utilized with the help of these structures. These verandas can be added in even prefabricated structures and can have different kind of advantages, specifically adding some open space to sit and to enjoy. These can be enclosed as well as can be located with the help of multiple heights, and with the help of these higher heights or bigger volumes, ventilating them or cross ventilating them will be a better option rather than keeping the heat retained, and these are going to cover them up as well. So they can be utilized with the help of even Teflon based structures as we have already discussed, and these can be very helpful in managing the microclimate. This is how typically are usually done in different locations, specifically in farmhouses. We have observed the same, or in some of the open spaces where gazebos exist, or where other allied structures are erected in open forms or open plains. These forms are very visible in our native or the local architecture, or more or less even in the contemporary architecture. You can see these kind of forms and these kind of local vocabularies do exist, and they are much liked by the people who are building it as well as the clientele. So apart from courtyards, they we can add green features to them. A courtyard or court is a circumscribed area, that means inside which has been extracted, often surrounded by a building or complex that is open to the sky. Such spaces in inns and public buildings were often the primary meeting places for some purposes, leading to other meanings of the court as well. Both of the words court and yard derive from the same root meaning an enclosed space. That means on the sides and sides, on all of its sides, they are going to have like walls, or we are going to have like rooms and spaces, whereas from the inside, it will be open towards the sky. This is how courtyards are usually developed. We can have like fountains, we can have green features, we can have sitting areas over there. People in the Punjab area specifically, and in those in our remote areas or rural areas, the courtyard concept is very much applicable. This can be utilized even in the form of a small uh, water-based element inside, which is going to keep the microclimate very much clean, stable, in a very soft form. This is another way of achieving the same. Some of the land on the ground has not been covered with the help of landscape, but landscape based green elements have been added on the first floor. So these can be there. These is a combination of like verandas as well as courtyards combined. Obviously, it's a commercial space which has been transformed in a multi-purpose utilization space on the roof side. So over here we have got like these passages which can be transformed into the similar forms of courtyard, and in the verandas, and we can have these as the courtyards available. So to conclude this all, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. It's a Chinese proverb in very, very simple words. What we need to understand from this proverb is that in the climatic responsive design, we have to consider the climate and the local context to ensure whatever we are designing is the need, the hour as well as the need of what we are delivering. So we'll like to conclude the lecture over here. This is your reference book, The Climate Responsive Design by Richard Hyde. I would like you to go through the video as well as the lecture slides, and we are going to have our discussions, inshallah, in the LMS sessions. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Allah Hafiz ji.